Welcome back, everybody. We are talking about suicide. It may be a very difficult and challenging conversation to have, but it is extremely important. How do you prevent it? By talking about it, and we're going to do that today. And I welcome to the program Samantha Nadler. She is the Middle Tennessee Regional Coordinator for the Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network. Thanks so much for being here, Samantha.
Thank you for having us.
Let's talk, first of all, the month of September, you all have a lot going on. Kind of explain some of the events and some of the different things that are going to be going on that you may want to make people aware of.
Sure. So September is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month in the state of Tennessee. We have governors and mayors all across the state sign off on proclamations saying that this month is Suicide Prevention Awareness in our state. And so we have events all across that highlight the need for stories of recovery and resiliency, so that way people can know that there is hope. Our big statewide event is on September 9th at Trevecca University. We also have two local events in Nashville, one on September 10th, and that is the You Matter Yellow Gala, and then on September 17th, we have our Mid-Cumberland Regional event at Sevier Park.
Terrific. How preventable, not preventable, I should say how prevalent, first of all, is suicide here in the state of Tennessee, if you can share some statistics?
Sure. It's unfortunately very prevalent. It's the 9th leading cause of death for our state, and in 2013 we lost over 1,000 people to suicide, which is the highest we've seen it. So we lose a lot of people. In fact, it's 3 a day. We lose 3 Tennesseans a day to suicide.
And we will talk about the prevention of it, of course, but let's talk also about age range. I mean, does suicide even have an age attached to it?
Well, suicide does impact all age groups, but the way it impacts can be different. So it's the 2nd leading cause of death for our youth. So we see it very prevalent in teenagers and young adults. But where we see the highest rate of suicide is for our middle-aged individuals, specifically white middle-aged men have a very high rate of suicide.
And Samantha, I know that you have a very close connection and experience yourself. If you don't mind sharing that with us, please.
Sure. I'm a suicide attempt survivor, so that means I've survived my own suicide attempts. I started attempting suicide when I was 12, and my last attempt was when I was 19, so I have about 8 or 9 in total between that time. And so I really struggled with anxiety and trauma that was not being addressed, and that led me to feeling pretty hopeless and like things weren't going to get better. And also when you're a teenager, you have no ability to see things in the long term because that part of your brain isn't even fully developed yet. So it's very easy to think that this is how it's always going to be, and I truly believe that. So I really struggled during that time getting through that, but haven't attempted since then, so it's been quite some time.
Can you share with us a little bit too about how you overcame
Sure.
the feelings that you had that kind of led you down that path to begin with?
Yeah, well, I started volunteering at the crisis line here in Nashville about a year after my last attempt, and I did that partially because I was going into mental health anyway and I wanted to get some experience, but I also wanted to see if I was able to do this kind of work because I had my own experience. It's very taboo to be in the mental health field and have your own problems. You're not supposed to really talk about that, so I wasn't sure if there were other people like me. So being around other people who worked in that setting, who fell into that line of work because they had their own lived experience, was really helpful for me. And also just talking about it, removing that shame and that stigma and being able to own it and not feel like that's something you shouldn't share because your competency would be judged or your ability. And so I really got a lot of help from that, and also just taking the time to understand my mental health issues made a huge difference too.
You know, you pointed out you were younger, obviously, during your attempts, and I think, so many young kids are so impressionable and have a hard time adjusting and coping with things. Now that you're on the other side of things and you have been able to help so many people, how do you, how do you feel about the work that you've been able to do? And what is a big message from you personally to teenagers? What would you say to your younger self? Maybe I should say that in a better way.
Well, that's a good question. I would say that things do change and the way you feel about things changes. I remember telling my therapist I'm not going to live to see the age of 18, and I really believe that. And things are so different than what I would have expected them to be, and unusually so. I had a lot of life circumstances that changed things from when I was struggling to now, but I never would have thought that I would be here teaching about the very thing that I struggled with. And I think if I had known that that was even a possibility for me, that would have changed things. So just knowing that things will change and the way you look at things will change and how you perceive it all can make a really big difference, especially as time moves away from those events.
Sure. Maybe, Samantha, you're the best person too to ask. When you have somebody in your life that you feel maybe lonely or hopeless or having even some of the same feelings that you described, how do you go about trying to help them? And maybe what I should ask first, we'll get to that in a second, what are you looking for specifically in somebody who might be hurting?
Someone who is thinking about suicide can display a variety of warning signs. Some of them are really concrete, whether that's explicitly saying they want to kill themselves or writing out a suicide note or getting access to the means to take their life. So those are really pretty concrete and clear. Then there are other signs like isolation and hopelessness and moodiness and things of that nature, even, you know, unexplained irritability or anger. And it comes across as anger, but really that's someone who was hurting, and that's how they show it.
Sure.
So a lot of things like that. I mean, people who are struggling with depression, even anxiety. I mean, those are symptoms that could really make suicide an option.
Yeah. So when you have a close friend or even a relative who's experiencing some of these things, what's the best way to kind of have a conversation with them, or what's the first step you should take as somebody who wants to help?
Ask them. Ask them if they're thinking about suicide, and you need to do it in a very clear and direct way. A lot of people, when they're asking about this, they might be vague and say, are you thinking of harming yourself, or do you think of not being here anymore? And that could be very different than suicide. When you use the concrete language, it shows that you're not afraid to talk about it and that we're discussing suicide. That is what I'm asking about. So it's pretty clear cut, and a lot of people feel like, well, if someone was really suicidal, wouldn't they just say it? But because of the stigma and the shame and judgment that comes around suicide and mental health issues, it's really hard to reach out when you don't know what kind of response you're going to get, even from a mental health professional. You know, a lot of people are afraid that the cops will be called on them. So just asking directly, because you're giving that person permission to share with you then.
Sure. And obviously I should point out too, for folks who don't have a loved one or a friend to turn to, obviously the crisis hotline is another excellent way to go ahead and try to reach out to somebody. Samantha Nadler with the Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network, thank you so much for your time, and thank you especially for sharing your personal story. We appreciate it.